Hey guys, Abel here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a little bit different, where I decided to challenge myself to a day-to-day vlog or a 30-day period of me talking about each plant I have at home. And I know it's gonna be challenging for me, but we will see if I can pull it through until the end. Since today is the Tetrasperma Tuesday, I decided to choose my Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma as my #1 plant or my first day plant that I will be talking. And I will be discussing and share with you my tips on how I care for this plant. So let's go and jump right in. So let's start with a little bit of history of this plant. Rhaphidophora tetrasperma belongs to Araceae family, and it's mainly native to Malaysia and southern Thailand. Some people call this plant as a mini monstera or a Jenny plant, but definitely not a Monstera deliciosa. They are entirely different species. As you can see on this leaf, this is the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, and it is a miniature compared to Monstera deliciosa. And this plant over here don't produce any edible fruit compared to the Monstera deliciosa. The typical leaf of this plant has a 6 split lobes compared to Monstera, which it has tons of splits, and I think it varies in different sites as well. So the vining of this plant, normally the aerial roots used to climb on trees or on any trellises, or if you have any totem like I have here, those aerial roots will latch onto whatever they are climbing to stabilize or to give them support as they grow. So let's talk about the tips on how I care for this plant. In terms of light and temperature, this plant over here is ideal, well bright in direct sunlight, and it cannot tolerate in direct sunlight. So you have to place this plant in anywhere bright or away from direct sunlight, because if you do, it can scorch or damage the leaves of your plant. In growing this plant indoor, make sure to place this in a bright spot. Like what I have here, I am placing this plant here in our south-facing window, which is my source of light for my plants. And if you don't have any good source of light, you can always use a grow light or any artificial light, as long as you place this plant in a bright area. In terms of temperature, it will thrive well in a 55 to 85 Fahrenheit, I believe between 12 to 38 degrees Celsius. When it comes to water and humidity of this plant, consistency and water is the key for growing this plant. Because if you don't have a well-draining soil, always soggy and kind of like muddy tendency, you will get a root rot on this plant. And that's why it is important to use a good growing medium, but make sure it has good aeration in it. And also don't forget to have at least one hole in your pot. You don't have to water it often, as long as you have a good moisture in the soil. That is good enough. But make sure to always check it, because you don't want to have, like I said, a muddy or a soggy soil, which will cause root rot for this plant. And during the cooler months or winter time, that's the time you don't have to water often or like every day, because you know it's cool weather and it's not gonna dry the soil easily. And this tropical plant prefer to be in a 50 to 60 humidity, but I don't have a good humidity in here. The only source that I have for this plant is fertilizing or feeding this plant in my big source of light, which is my south-facing window. And I've never seen that on my plant, so thank God that I don't have to worry about it. And even the thrips that I had lately, it didn't even damage this plant, which is pretty cool. And that's why I think this is the best plant here in my collection. So guys, I'm going to show you again my collection of Rhaphidophora tetrasperma here. And you guys, this is not how it looks like, of course, when I first got it. And I've struggled a lot how to grow this plant. But as you can see for this plant is, I got it from this mother plant over here. And due to discoloration, which I found it helpful, so this grew a big leaves, which like this one over here, like I said a while ago, the typical leaf of the Rhaphidophora Like what I've mentioned a while ago, the typical leaf of this plant has 6 split lobes, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And as you guys can see, there is a little fenestration in the middle, which is fascinating to see. And this one here is pretty huge, and even this one. So 1, 2, and 3, after chopping this little guy over here, as you guys can see, the leaves are not big as these ones. I've chopped this one from this mother plant, and it grew at the same time, which I think they are really proportioned to each other because of the size of the leaves. This one here is the one I'm talking a while ago. I chopped this plant because of the discoloration on the leaf, which means a lack of nutrients. And after, you know, feeding this plant with fertilizer, boom, it gets a lot of foliage and chlorophyll on the plant. This one is the other Tetrasperma that I have, and you guys, it's growing like crazy. And this is the one I was talking after using the Gringo Rasta. Every single node shoots new growth. As you guys can tell, this is the node, and it shoots this huge stem which has bigger leaves on it. Like, it's pretty big. And this one as well, this one as well, and this one as well over here. You guys can tell these are smaller, and these are smaller compared to the new growth, which is pretty big, but it doesn't have 6 splits on it. And new growth, and a new growth as well. And also this plant here, I don't know what happened to the side of this plant, and that's because the side of this plant, which looks to me a miniature of the Monstera deliciosa. And I have a new growth here as well. So that's pretty much it, guys. For the recap of my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, light and temperature, always place this plant in a bright area. If you don't have a good source of light, you can always use grow light or any artificial light, as long as you're placing it in a bright spot. Do not place this plant direct sunlight because it can scorch your plant and it'll give you damages on the leaves. Water and humidity, consistent and even moisture is the key when you're growing this plant. So make sure you don't overwater it because this plant tends to get root rot. For soil, like I said, a well-draining soil is the key. If you don't know which growing medium you will be using, I highly suggest Coco Coir mixed with perlite, or even you can mix with bark. For propagation, like I said, this is surprisingly easy to propagate. You can use water propagation, sphagnum moss propagation, hydroponics propagation, and even perlite alone. But make sure whenever you cut this plant, you have to leave a note on the stem. So guys, that's all for my first plant of me talking, my 30-day vlog plant challenge. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to follow me on my Instagram, Abel's Plant, and I will see you soon on my next video. Bye!